Do you have an auto repair business that owns you, or do you own it? I'm Dean for the Workshop Whisperer. This is the original Workshop Whisperer herself, Rachael Evans, and welcome to today's episode of Talking Shop. An auto repair shop owner feeling stuck, feeling like they're in business prison, that they can't get away because the business owns their time, owns their attention. What have you seen are the major reasons for that being the case?
I think what we're describing is before you even think about having a holiday from the business, it's where you're the first one there every day and it's, dawn, and you're the one locking up at night and you've missed dinner. The kids have already had their baths and, maybe even on their way to bed when you get home, or worst case scenario, you've actually had to stay there till late in the night because there was an issue with the car and you just had to be the one to work it out. That's a business that owns you instead of you owning it. And it usually happens. Everybody who's done the early startup years would be really familiar with it, but it's a phase that we want you to be moving through and out of by the time you're at the 3 to 5 year mark, because by now, with a few team members on board, if that's still occurring, it's actually a lack of systemization in the business and effective workflows and team members being up to par and being accountable for their own work. That's what's required at that point. If you're at the 3 to 5 year mark and you're still doing the dawn till dusk shift, then
you haven't brought in any team members.
Yeah, we've got a systems problem.
Yeah, it's a noble pursuit to do everything by yourself, but we talk about the 3 phases for an auto repair business owner. One is working in the business, where the number one skill to develop in there is systems, learning to create, document systems that other people can follow so the business doesn't rely on you. And then the second is working on the business, which is around coaching. It's where you're using the systems to measure the overall performance of the team, of the finances, of the operation of your business. And in introducing systems, we talk about a replacement ladder. We learned the replacement ladder from a guy called Dan Martell. Do you want to speak to how someone would go about replacing themselves, systemizing what they do to get themselves out of the daily duties or to feel trapped inside the business?
Well, the concept is quite simple. You've got to be aware of all of the tasks that you perform so that you can start to delegate some of those tasks away to an appropriate person. And if you don't already have the appropriate person on your team, then that becomes the start of building the job description and knowing what your next hire needs to look like. So, for instance, last week on one of our engine room client webinars, one of our clients said that his service advisor was, largely free during the day. The technicians were all flat out, but the service advisor was looking for things to do. And after a few questions, it became evident that the business owner was still doing most of the service advisor tasks. So it's things like that that will keep you very busy and very much an employee of the business instead of the business owner. You've got to recognize when you're holding on and when you've got someone in a role or you need to hire so that that person can succeed themselves in their role.
And if you think about an organisational chart, an organisational structure, it's the foundational places that you want to be filling first. So we're talking, administrative tasks, data entry tasks, those those repetitive tasks. Bookkeeping is one often that people hang on to for far too long than they need to. If you're doing things yourself, just document what you're doing. That becomes your system. And when people talk about, or when we talk about, standard operating procedures or operation manuals, we're not referring to, files or folders on desks that just collect dust over time. We're talking about living, breathing documents and examples that are hosted, online. So screen recordings, videos, documents that are updatable but can be followed by your team, right?
That's exactly right. And you mentioned bookkeeping. It's one of the first ones that we suggest auto repair shop owners delegate away, because there are thousands of bookkeepers out there. It doesn't mean that they can all do a good job. You've got to use some discernment to get the right one, but start with your accountant and ask them for a recommendation, because it actually takes a skilled, qualified bookkeeper only a couple of hours on average to do what's required with reconciling. Maybe you'll get them to do accounts payable and receivable as well. A few hours a week, as opposed to you continually not doing it, and then the burden of knowing that it's there to do grows and grows and grows and just adds a new layer of stress. And then you sit down and it might take you a whole weekend to get it right. Or you could be paying someone 2 to 3 hours a week virtually. They don't have to come in to your business. That's the great thing about Xero and MYOB and things like that these days. And that might cost, $50 an hour, for instance. So that money is so well spent when you consider that you've now got that time back to spend on other areas of the business that can generate income.
Yeah, because often we'll hear someone say, well, I can't afford $20 or $30 or $50 an hour to pay someone. But if let's just use blanket, your labour rate is $100 an hour. So every hour you spend with your head under a bonnet fixing a vehicle, you can charge $100 for it. But you could pay someone $20 or $30, even up to $50 for that hour to do it. Well, you're actually got more time in your day to generate revenue at that higher hourly rate. So it's about buying back your time and understanding what the true cost is of not investing in that help, because you're not just losing that time, you're actually losing the time that you would bill out at your labour rate, which is usually the highest rate inside the business.
That's right. So when you feel like you're a prisoner in the business, first stop, have a look around. Is it because you're still the only team member in the business? Probably time to hire someone and be able to leverage your time. But if you've got people in the business, there's somebody there service advising, you've got a couple of technicians, but you're still the slave to the business, get a sheet of paper out and start writing down every time you change task, every time you're called to solve a problem or speak to a customer, write down that you've done that. And then at the end of the week, have a look back and go, I've actually got skilled, qualified people here that are paid to do that, and I'm just doing it out of habit rather than necessity.
Yeah, it's a noble pursuit doing everything yourself, but it keeps you chained to your auto repair business 24/7 or much, much longer than you absolutely should be. We will see you on the next episode of Talking Shop.
See you then.